welcome back to the BVTV channel, and in today's episode we're going to be doing the 2021 Killer Power tier list video as we kick off 2021. Of course, Happy New Year's everybody, and that's why I figured this would be the best time to do this, because last year you guys loved it. We did it back in March, about maybe April, so I wanted to kind of come back to it now to kick off the new year right and give you my best opinion on who I think are the best killers and the worst. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, shall we? So kicking things off in tier D, it is going to be the one and only Hillbilly. It's actually kind of funny because I'm also going to be comparing who went up, who went down, who stayed the same. So last year I gave the Hillbilly a C, which means he was an average killer. This year, well, he got demoted. He's actually in the D tier list, and I'll tell you why. Compared to almost every other killer on this list, except for the ones that are going to be basically featured above tier D, Hillbilly fell short, and I mean massively short. Like a fall from grace, really. And the reason why I said this, he does have the chance as an ability, but now survivors are getting smarter. It's 2021. This game's been out for like, what, 4 or 5 years? And they know how to just sidestep. Dead hard, just sidestepping, 100% sensitivity, PC, console, Switch, whatever you want to call the Switch. Truthfully, now that we're on cross-platform, I've been getting a lot more intelligent games, so I've really had to think and maximize my power, and unfortunately the Hillbilly is one of those characters I seem to never be able to do that with. Ultimately, the Hillbilly came out to just be a track runner. No offense to any track runners out there, no offense. You guys work extremely hard and conditioning, just want to put that out there. And no offense, Meg Thomas, I know you used to be a track runner. Bottom line is, at least for me, I mean, looking back on things and just seeing how bad the Hillbilly has gotten for me, before I'd get a chance to every 2 out of 10 hits, now 1 out of 15 if I'm lucky. Bottom line, Hillbilly just feels more like a glorified runner and not an effective killer. Yes, his chainsaw does hit you, and it's a complete insta-down, but the hitboxes just seem weird now. It just doesn't seem effective. I've been right behind somebody, literally breathing down their neck almost, and then I still can't slash them. It makes no sense. Ultimately, I'm probably ranting here, and I don't want to nitpick too much. So bottom line, the Hillbilly, you're the first person to be graded in this episode, and I'm sorry, you went from a C and now you're a D. So, sorry Hillbilly, you're in tier D. So next up in tier D, it is going to be the Demogorgon. Last year they were rank B, and this year they actually wound up taking the highest drop out of any killer in this game, especially in this tier list, as they are now placed in tier D. Demogorgon's powers are called basically of the Abyss, and what of the Abyss does is it grants the Demogorgon to have the power Shred and also transverse through the Upside Down, which what that means, with his ability to transfer into the Upside Down, he actually puts portals on the ground and he can traverse them. It does take about maybe, I would say, 5 to 7 seconds at the max, and you also get a small moment of being undetected, so that way if anyone's near you, the only way they're actually gonna actually hear you is when you climb out of it, and that's it basically, because the little whoosh sound happens and then you climb out and then your character makes a little bit of a noise, like the smallest noise in the world, really. And then other than that, your heartbeat's gone, all that. So unless they hear you clumping on the ground, because I will say this, a few of the times when I've played Survivor and hearing the Demogorgon, even when I play Killer, he actually stomps on the ground like pretty hard, so just make a little bit of noise though. But either way, you're able to basically go through the Upside Down, and the survivors are able to take apart your portal, which I believe it does give you like this yellow notification that it's being taken apart, but if you're too far away, you're not gonna get some time, unfortunately. And following up with Shred isn't a bad little side ability that he has. I mean, you do kind of cover up a little bit of ground, especially if someone's, kind of running pretty quickly or they have life. It's a little bit easier to catch up to them. Unfortunately, with Shred, it's super easy to sidestep. Unless you get trapped in a corner, then good luck escaping that. It'd be very, very difficult. Unless you have Dead Hard, that might save you. The keyword is might. But ultimately, when it comes to the Demogorgon, the fun stops there. I mean, like I said, he's pretty easy to dominate, and I've seen that a lot of times. It's very rare that I find a good Demogorgon. It's very rare that I have those amazing Demogorgon moments that I used to when he first came out. Ultimately, when it comes to the Demogorgon, he doesn't do enough anymore. His map pressure is all but gone in many ways, and he's really fallen flat, and that's why he's in tier D. There's not many bright spots I can really point out besides the cool animation of transversing through the Upside Down, but other than that, folks, the Demogorgon is in tier D. So next up, it is going to be the Blight, and basically the Blight's power is called Blighted Corruption. he has the ability to rush and then lethal rush. So basically what Blighted Corruption is, you have to initially rush, and when you rush you can easily cover ground, but if you don't hit something in about, I'll say 4 to 5 seconds, then you lose the rush. Then you go back to normal, get about 3 or 4 seconds, and then you can rush again. But basically the real fun is when you get to become a pinball on a pinball machine, if that's the best description. You have to bump into things in order for your lethal rush to activate. So once you bump into something, your lethal rush, it'll give you the option to lethal rush. Take advantage of it before 3 seconds, otherwise it'll be gone, and then you're back to being in this phase of where you have to inject yourself again to be normal. But as long as you can keep bumping, you have 5 tokens. The initial one is to rush. If you bump something, then that takes another token away, and then you can keep going for a few more seconds, quickly find something to bump into, then you can keep rushing, and it also helps you change direction. One of the worst things about his ability is that if you bump into something, that's the only way you're going to change direction. So be very careful with that. And again, this is literally the biggest sidestep thing you can do, because a lot of people don't have control with them. I'm still getting control with them, but even then it still is a difficult task. You legitimately have to keep bumping, hit a survivor, and then you still suffer the effect. So that's what I'm gonna call it. So for those reasons, that's honestly why the Blight is in tier D, because it literally is one of the most counterable things in the world. And I don't care what your FPS is. I'm a console player, and it is extremely difficult to use him effectively, which is why he is in tier D. So next up in tier D, it is going to be the Nurse, and she's the last killer in tier D. So her power is called Spencer's Last Breath, and honestly, her only ability is blinking. Yes, that's right, blinking. She can do it up to a maximum of 2 times. Now, if you hold it for too long, and you hold it to where she's like in a fist motion, then she's just gonna teleport all the way through, and that is your only blink that you'll get. And I know a lot of people like her because she breaks the game and can go through things and such and go up and down. If there's like a 2-4 map, yeah, it's cool, but it's not useful on console. I'm a console player, I play PS4, and truly, I've even seen PC players who honestly suck as the Nurse. No offense, I'm not saying that you're bad when I mention suck. It's just, it's not your fault. It's the fact that she literally has an awful power, and a lot of people over glorify her, in my opinion, because I can break her ankles with the quickness, even if she can blink to me. Ultimately, she just really, in my opinion, yeah, she does cause map pressure, but she's not consistently effective, and I feel it's just super easy to juke her. Go into zigzag. Even if she has a 100 sensitivity and better FPS than you, literally just go into zigzag, go into circle, she's not going to hit you. She cannot hit you. Now, there is something I learned how to do a few days ago, and that was actually to hit people mid-blink. What I mean by mid-blink is while I'm still traveling, you can actually slice them. I think it's like a new thing. I wasn't able to do that at all last year, so I wanted to actually mention that to you guys. But overall, the Nurse just kind of, to me, fails as a killer, just like the other 3 that I mentioned. So, with that being said, congratulations, Nurse. You are in tier D. So to recap tier D, it is going to be the Hillbilly, the Nurse, the Demogorgon, and last but not least, the Blight. Kicking things off in tier C, it is going to be the Trapper, and the Trapper last year was a C+, now he's a C. His power is called the Bear Trap, and the reason why the Trapper stayed a C is he's just a situational type of killer, really, and the reason why I mean that is because of his power. His power is great for situations. You either get the games of, oh, a lot of people fell into my bear traps, and oh, no one fell into my bear trap. And I'm talking about disregarding add-on, disregarding perks, just the power. Again, in order to learn this game, it's not about the perks, and I see a lot of people doing that. They think that just the perks are going to win them every game. No, if you don't utilize the power correctly and how it's supposed to be, you're not going to do well. And that proves time and time again, especially when I play killer, and I think I know what I'm doing. Like when I first started, man, I'd say I thought I knew what I was doing a few years ago, and man, I was not killing anybody because I didn't know the power. I had great perks, but I didn't know the power. So for those reasons, the Trapper is primarily an average killer. He was the first killer ever made, and all props to him, he's still relevant today. Yeah, there's a few killers who really get dusted in the dust. I'm not going to mention any because that'd be kind of rude, but hey, it is what it is. And ultimately, the Trapper, folks, very situational power. So with that being said, Trapper, you're in tier C. Next up, we have the Hag, and her power is the Blackened Catalyst. Now, last year she was a C, this year she's right where she was last year. didn't change. One of the best things I think about the hag, truly about her power, the Blackened Catalyst, is that she can travel from afar, and she is the only killer that actually gives me jump scares still to this day, because it's so out of the blue. It literally pops up from the ground when you don't see him, and she comes up, blah, and she really does scare you. I mean, it's a great jump scare every time I see her. It's also the only character that I always try to avoid because she scares me as a survivor. As a killer, man, I'm not gonna. She still scares me sometimes with her jump scares. So with her being able to travel from afar, back and forth between her traps or symbols or whatever you want to call them, catalysts. There you go. That's actually called what the power is, shall we? Ultimately, she is a fun character to play as, but not the most effective, as you would think. So for those reasons, yeah, I mean, she can find you with the jump scare, and if she travels to you fast enough and quick enough, and at least she's from a decent range, she'll jump right to you, slash you, and you're injured or dead. I mean, it's pretty cool, but honestly, not the most effective power in this game. So for those reasons, the hag is in tier C. So next up, we got the Ghostface from Scream. Last year he was a C, this year he's a C. His power basically being Night Shroud, and what that does is you're able to stalk people while being undetectable for a certain time period until you get discovered, and you're also able to crouch. You're able to crouch whether you're not being stealthy or whether you are. So it's a kind of a beauty. It definitely works on darker maps and maps that have a lot of like tall grass in it that make it hard to see for survivors and killers. So that definitely could play into your advantage when someone's trying to lose you in the forest or the grassy areas and stuff like that. Ultimately, talking about his stalking ability, it is really great, but people really do see you. There are some times where even if they're not looking at you, as long as they have their camera, and remember the survivors have a third-person camera, it kind of takes you out of your stealth mode after a certain duration. The one positive of this is that it also does kind of reveal at least what direction they're looking at you from, so you can probably find them and then bop them, or at least stalk them when they don't see you at that point, or if you can play mind games with them, blah blah blah. You guys get the point. Either way, when it comes to Ghostface, I really do like his thing. Once you get the survivors to a red circle, by the way, you can also stalk I think everyone at the same time, all 4 survivors, and if you get them all, or at least get one of them to a red circle, that then starts your duration. I think you have like a 60-second duration. I think that's what it is. Maybe 30 seconds. I know that's a big difference, but it's still a lengthy duration for you to insta down them, because once they're exposed from that red circle that they have, then they also are a one tap, which works out perfectly, especially for us when we're having a tough game as killers. That stalk can really work, do wonders for us. Now here's the downside. The unfortunate side when it comes to Ghostface is that, again, it's easy to take him out of stealth, and getting a good stalk nowadays is really hard. Your best bet is trying to stalk people while they're healing, and things like that, because that way you can just really re-down them real quickly. You're undetectable, so they didn't see you. Down them, then try to hook them again. That's kind of your best bet with it. It's still hard in 2021 to get a good stalk on. So for those reasons, Ghostface is in tier C. So next up, folks, it is the pig, and the pig's power is the reverse bear trap, aka Jigsaw's baptism. That's what the game refers to it as. And the pig last year was a B+. This year she's a C, and the reason for that is because even though she's had a buff, she definitely the buff actually has made the traps harder to get off, but she definitely has kind of fallen a little bit because, yeah, she is completely stealthy when she goes into her crouch mode, which is awesome. She's completely undetectable when she does that, but ultimately it doesn't seem like the bear traps truly do kill anybody. The timer to what it takes to get off of you if you have to go to all 4 or 5 traps is kind of ridiculously high, which makes it impossible to actually kill anybody with it, so you're relying on crouching and stealth. So for those reasons, she's an average killer with a power, again, that seems very situational now and not effective at the most of the time, but effective and cool when it works. It also does take the survivors off of the gens, which gives you a little bit more time to kill other people and stuff. And yeah, that's basically the only bright spot. So the pig is in tier C. So next up, it is the Deathslinger, and the Deathslinger last year was a D. This year he was a C, so he actually improved. Yeah, congratulations. His power is called the Redeemer, and there are there's one negative and one positive thing about it. So let's start with the negative, shall we? Negative being the hitbox. The hitbox is not very forgiving, so you have to be really on your aim. Especially you want to make sure you hit them dead center, or at least in a big enough area to where the game will register that you actually hit them with the harpoon. Now for the positives, even if you reel them and you don't necessarily get to them in time, as long as you hold the chain, yes, you will have a little bit of a stun effect, but you will also cause that person to be in the mangled, I believe believe that's what they call it, the mangled status effect. So if they don't actually heal themselves in time, they will be basically in the dying state, which means you can hook them because, you know, they forgot to heal themselves and yada yada yada. Also, one of the other benefits from it is that you can reel them towards. If they are a little bit of a way, it's something that you wouldn't actually be able to, like, you know, lunge at them and hit them with a spear. Then you can just, you know, harpoon them, try to drag them towards you, and then once you get too close enough range before the wire snaps, you let go and then bop them, and you've hit them to either into them or down them. So it's a very effective tool. The reason why he's in tier C is that his map pressure isn't always the greatest, and like I said, you know, reeling people in can take a small bit of time, which, you know, those seconds are what you really desperately need, and what could also decide a game for you. So for those nitpicky reasons, again, not the greatest map pressure too, he is in tier C. So next up in tier C, it is the twin Charlotte and Victor. The way they work actually is their power is called Blood Bond, and you can only use one or the other. They are a dual set, but you can only use one or the other because Victor is actually attached to Charlotte. They're not like two walking people. Victor is a gremlin, while Charlotte's a human being with a big gash over her like side. Basically what you can do is Victor is used as, at least I use him as a scout. He can scout people when they're near him, but he can also be killed. He has this ability to pounce on people. Now when he pounces, he actually attaches himself, like latches himself onto them, which then gives the survivor a time limit to actually like take him off them. So while he's being taken off of, you can see the heartbeat kind of, and then you can insta down them if they're not too far from you. Now, when this happens, Charlotte becomes completely like immobile, and she doesn't even have a heartbeat. The heartbeat now transfers to Victor when you use Victor. The good thing, not really good thing, Victor can be kicked and killed, but it will quickly respawn. But it'll give you a few seconds before you can use him. Now, if you use him let's say if he doesn't get kicked actually, and he gets thrown to the ground, that's when he responds quickly. When he does get kicked, you have to wait a little bit to use him. Sorry, let me correct myself for that. Sorry about that, guys. And then he's available again. Like I said, you transfer that back and forth. Victor has a great scouting eye. He gives up amazing map pressure. Survivors will try to zigzag you, but the best thing about it is that he has a big hitbox. So he's a pretty good scout. And an overall pain to deal with. An actual pain to deal with, honestly. So if you can actually use him and you are good with free aiming in terms of a launching baby, hey, that's the right one for you. The one thing I do want to mention is that survivors can't also leave if he's attached to them. So they have to, they basically have to like pull you off, which may give you a little bit more time to down them. So that's also a thing. So that Charlotte isn't too bad herself. I mean, basically her power actually relies in Victor. I mean, you can always switch back and forth between them. And then when Victor is immobile, they can still kick him, just kind of giving you the heads up, even though when they come near him, the heartbeat will be there. If you can switch back to him in time, you'll probably save him. But overall, with that being said, the reason why Charlotte's in tier C, they do give good map pressure, but Victor, again, isn't the most consistent, even with the big hitbox, and the fact he can die repeatedly. And then it also takes you time to it takes you a lot of time to kind of recover when he actually gets killed. He just falls. They fall a little bit flat. I know a lot of people don't like them. They consider them weak. Yeah, it would be a lot more efficient if you could use both. But overall, they're more just map pressures, and that's about it. Downing people can be a little bit challenging with Charlotte and Victor. Definitely injuring them won't be, but actually downing them. Because, you know, a lot of people I see now, once they're dealing with Charlotte and Victor, even when they're solos, they try to stick together with somebody to help them out. So that's the biggest problem with them. But yeah, overall, Charlotte and Victor, everybody, they are in tier C. Last but not least, in tier C, getting the C+, it is going to be the Huntress. Now, last year she was a B. This year she's getting the C+, because ultimately, and I know this is going to be crazy and super nitpicky, but the Huntress power is the hunting hatchets. I love these things, I really do. They're super fun to use. You can throw these things all over the map, halfway across the map, not upside down, but you can do 360 trick shots. She's got super cool trick shot stuff, I will say. She's definitely a lot of fun to use. Because there are new killers and because the year's gone, I've hardened up my criteria a little bit. Yeah, she does give good map pressure. Her free aiming, they did give her a slight buff, like her hitbox is a little bit larger, so it's a little bit easier to hit people. Ultimately, the one thing that I feel like really stops is that when she gets, it starts with like, was it 4 or 5 hatchets, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Probably 5, honestly. Yeah, that sounds about right. I can't remember the exact amount, but anyway, her biggest thing is just constantly having to go back into lockers to find them, because when you're using the Huntress, you don't really want to use your weapon. You want to feel cool and use the hunting hatchets. So for those reasons, at least for me, I'm gonna put her in with the C+, because she has to take the time out of chasing somebody to get more hatchets, which could be detrimental. Because in this game, every second counts. Literally every second counts. That 1 second that you had an advantage may be a whole game changer. And I seriously do mean that. So with that being said, the Huntress gets a C+ in Tier C. But just to recap the killers in Tier C, it is the Trapper, the Hag, the Ghostface, the Pig, the Deathslinger, the Twins, and of course the C+, the Huntress. Kicking things off here in Tier B, it is going to be the Wraith. Last year, the Wraith was actually an A killer. This year, he's a B killer. The Wraith's power is actually called the Wailing Bell. It renders him to be able to transform from being invisible to uninvisible and actually doing some massive damage to you. Basically, while he's invisible, I think his speed goes from 4.6 to 5.2 in terms of like walking, and on top of that, he has no terror radius. But the negative side to why this year he is actually in tier B, and this may be nitpicking, but it's because his little gray thing is super visible now. Like he's the one killer you don't even need spine chill for, because you can literally see him a mile away, and he literally is so translucent. I think it's word. No, transparent. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Transparent. And because of that, he's super easy to spot out. And yes, he does walk pretty fast. He can kick gens while he's invisible, vault, all that other good stuff. But truly, he can't do any damage to you until he actually uncloaks. Which when he does uncloak, he does get like an extra little speed boost to actually go whack you real quick. Which 9 times out of 10 will actually work in the Wraith's favor. Just letting you know that. The Wraith is still one of my favorite killers to this date. Really, I mean, he's an absolutely fun character to use. But ultimately, as we are in 2021, survivors are getting smarter as literally the days go by. So they can literally spot him a mile away. I know I've said like 3 times already, but overall, that's really just sums up the Wraith. He's a pretty good killer and honestly above average. Yes, he may have went down a little bit in value, but he's still a fun killer if you're new to this game to definitely master and learn. It's super easy, especially with his perks, but I'm not here to talk about perks. With that being said, the Wraith is in Tier B. So next up, folks, it is going to be the Spirit. The Spirit's power is called Yamaoga's Haunting, and last year she came in as a rank A killer. This year she dropped to rank B, and like I said, you know, with this tier list, some killers were going to go up, and some killers were definitely going to go down, and the Spirit happened to be one of those who went down. Speaking about Yamaoga's Haunting, the reason it actually put her in Tier B is I feel it is a good power, but it definitely relies on a few perks to really help it out. Like, there's a few powers in this that really just do their own thing without perks. It's really actually useful. Hers, on the other hand, I disagree with completely. I really feel like you really need a helping hand for this to really work properly. And I see this in a lot of players too, especially when I see the Spirit. They only are able to really track you by blood trail and scratch marks, which, by the way, if you are a really good survivor, you can easily make our killer lives very, very difficult. So the Spirit, on the other hand, can track up ground pretty quickly. One of the main detractors, you can tell she's coming near you because you can hear the sound where it goes whoosh pretty quickly. And when she gets closer to you, it gets super, super loud, basically indicating that you know the survivor's going to know that you're quite near them, and they're going to start running. Now, granted, you can also mind game them with this by, you know, if they're trying to do the whole what is it called, the do-si-do or slip or what do I call it? Swoopity swoop, you won't take the boot. There we go. I had to get that in there in this episode. But either way, if you're a smart Spirit, you can literally use that, and then if they're trying to bounce back and forth from a pallet, you can outsmart them, mind game them, and get a free hit on them by just going to where your initial like shadow of them seeing you was, and them thinking that you're not smart. So yeah, there's a couple of cool benefits to the Spirit, but overall, I really do feel like the Spirit's power is one that definitely needs some help, and I think may need to be buffed a little bit, if I'm being honest. So with that being said, the Spirit is in Tier B. Next up, it is going to be the Legion, and I know for a lot of you guys, last year when I put Legion in the D tier, you guys did not hold back on really like laying it in on me about how I didn't know anything about Legion and yada yada. It was actually quite funny, I'm not gonna lie. But I actually took your guys' advice, and I took about I'd say 6 months of really trying to hone in with the Legion. I could definitely see what you guys were saying, that maybe I shouldn't give him enough time to play with. Honestly, Legion's become one of my cooler characters. Like, I'm still about him, but I do believe he did at least deserve to be in the B tier because of how dominant he could be. The reason why I'm saying that, but let me actually recall his power. His power is called Feral Frenzy. Last year he was in Tier D. This year he's in Tier B. One game not too long ago, I actually had to where I hit Feral Frenzy 10 times in my first outing. It was on Badham Preschool, I think 3. 3, yeah, Bad End Preschool 3. And truly, I've been dominating with Legion lately, and I was like, whoa, this is nuts. Like, survivors really do become kind of potatoes once they deal with Legion. I don't know what is Legion and the Clown. Whenever they see those two, they literally become potatoes, like complete potatoes. And if you don't know what that means, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not telling you, so don't look it up, kids. Yeah, the IQ of survivors really drop when you play Legion. I don't know if it's like some intimidation factor, whatever the case may be. Basically, while he's in Feral Frenzy, he's able to leap over things just like a survivor would be fast vaulting over a pallet, over a locker, not over a locker, but over a window or any vault location possible. Truthfully, Legion is probably one of the most fun killers to actually play in Dead by Daylight, and I really do mean that, especially for newer killers and more experienced ones. I've been having games to where more experienced ones have definitely been on their stuff, if you know what I mean. Ultimately, Legion is here in the B tier, and hopefully you guys actually agree with me. If those of you guys say he's an A tier, I'm definitely disagreeing with you. But either way, I respect Legion enough to give him the B tier. So with that being said, Legion and tier B. Next up is the Plague, and the Plague last year was a B. This year she's a B, so she basically stayed the same. Her power being Vile Purge / Corruption Purge. Basically, her power allows these little water fountain, purification fountains to be there. She vomits on people, like she legit vomits. It's kind of disgusting when you really think about it. So it's actually really cool. I don't think anyone's ever said, hey, being vomited on is cool. I swear, for those people who watch this, they're probably like, what is wrong with this guy? Anyway, in a video game sense, being able to vomit on people is so disrespectful, but it's so funny too. Alright, all jokes aside, the Plague has one of the best map pressure powers, I think, in this game. And what I mean by that is she is able to really hurt the game. And what I mean by that also is she can literally not use her Corruption Purge and have every single purification thing red, which means red, when she does that, she can actually then hurt you. Like when she vomits on you, she just infects you, and then you have a limited number of time to, you know, get it off, or not get it off, but purify yourself before you come to the broken status effect stage. When that happens and when you become broken, you also then are basically a one tap because you're what do they call it? You have the Plague. You have the sickness, and you're not healthy anymore, and you can also vomit on other survivors, and they can give it to them, and they can give it to somebody else, and after a while, if you're all together, yikes. You get what I'm saying? It spreads pretty quickly. And also, the Plague can also vomit on walls, pallets, lockers, the floor, anything. And if you come in contact with it, or if you come in contact with a gen that's vomited up, you will then also inherit the sickness. So the Plague really is a 5-tool player. The reason why she is in here is because the Vile Purge doesn't last long enough for me. And it's because of that it also sometimes can feel like it's forever before survivors actually do take to purifying themselves. Nowadays, a lot of survivors do actually leave themselves open to the one tap they'd rather just be thrown up on, instead of giving you more ammunition to long range fire at them that can hurt them and actually do damage to them. So they'd rather just be injured with the sickness, not give it to anybody else, so they already have it. So I've seen that happen in a lot of games I played with the Plague. Also, big shout out to a person with the letter A, and this is like their favorite killer, and their favorite killer, once again, stayed in tier B, so congratulations, she's not that bad. But with that being said, everybody, the Plague is in tier B. Next up, it is going to be the Oni. Now, last year, his power, the Yamaoka's Wrath, was actually a C. This year, he moved up to the B, so congrats to the Oni on a big jump. And I also wanted to mention that Yamaoka's Wrath is quite interesting, because for him to actually unlock it, he has to hit survivors and collect their blood orbs. When he collects enough blood orbs, then it'll trigger this thing called Blood Fury. So you must have enough blood orbs to activate Blood Fury. When that happens, you have two abilities. You can do your Demon Dash or your Demon Strike. If you fully do the Demon Dash, you're able to really zoom all the way around the map. People can't see because then you glow red, but it's a super effective way to control the map and patrol generators while you're trying to down survivors. By the way, when you use the stick, as long as you at least hold it for about, I think, was it 3 seconds, you will have an insta down. It's a one-hit kill, basically. If you don't and you go for the mini strike, it'll be just like a regular weapon. He'll just kind of moderately smack you with it, and then you kind of will be in the injured state. But overall, it is one of the most effective things now that I feel like I have a lot more control since I boosted my sensitivity. If you're a killer, boost your sensitivity to at least 80%. Do not keep it at 50. It will not help you. But overall, the Oni has great pressure. I feel like a lot of people are really scared of when they see the Oni, especially when it goes raw and does all that craziness. Anyway, I think my microphone just like cut out there. That was terrible. Anyway, the Oni and his craziness is awesome. He's a fun killer to use. I would at least say you're at least able to get a 2 to 3k with him. He's a very efficient killer, I like to believe. So with that being said, folks, the Oni is in tier B. So next up and getting the B plus in this B tier, it is going to be none other than Michael Myers, aka the Shape. His power is called Evil Within. Last year he was actually, I believe, a B, and this year he's getting the B plus. So a little bit of a boost for Big Mike. So congrats to Big Mike on that. The B plus goes to you, man. Now I know what a lot of people are going to say. Oh, how is he still in the B category? The reason why I gave him the B plus is because his power is an insta kill. He's undetectable, and even though he's tall, survivors don't seem to have the idea to look around, so you can stalk people for a good amount of time, and you can stalk up to 4 people, and when you do that, your thing will be evil within 3 by literally like 20 to 40, maybe just like a whole minute. You'll have evil within 3 ready for you. Of course, there's stages: evil within 1, evil within 2, and then when you hit evil within 3, then you get to one-shot people. You can slug. He's a very efficient. People are scared. They start running when they see him. He's the ultimate intimidator in Dead by Daylight. Truly is. What makes him intimidating is the fact that he is undetectable. So from personal experience, I've literally looked around and I've taken my eye off for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and he's right behind me just stalking me. It's super scary when you see it. Overall, people may think because he's undetectable, he doesn't have enough map pressure. Trust me, when that evil within 3 hits, you get scared. Now, the only reason why he wasn't in tier A and gets the B plus is even though he's super effective and efficient, even without his power and just his little blade. Truly, Michael Myers is the definition of horror. The moment you know it's Michael Myers, survivors will then adjust their whole game plan because you're using him. The reason why he doesn't get to be in tier A is truly because you have to wait to stalk your opponents, and that is difficult. Truly, it's hard to get a good scare with Ghostface, any of the good stuff. So stalking in general in this game is very, very difficult. As this game keeps developing, survivors get smarter, so we have to be smarter about it, truthfully. And with that being said, that is the exact reason why the Shape is a B plus. Congrats to Big Mike on getting the B plus this year. So to recap tier B, it is the Wraith, the Spirit, the Legion, the Plague, the Oni, and of course getting the B plus, it is none other than the Shape, aka Michael Myers. As we're going to go on, folks, to tier A. So kicking things off here in tier A, it is going to be the Cannibal. The Cannibal's power is called Bubba's Chainsaw, and basically you get 3 tokens. And if you hit those 3 tokens right, man, I tell you, you will be swinging that thing for quite a while, and you cannot miss your target. I'm telling you, you cannot miss your target. Ultimately, whenever people see Bubba, you'll see a lot of DCs, a lot of rage quitting, a lot of evil messages coming your way. Trust me, it happens. Ultimately, the Cannibal is one of the most ferocious killers in this game, and that chance of being an insta-down, you can chainsaw about literally 4 survivors if they're all in the same area and keep going as long as you have those 3 tokens. It will not stop for one person like the Hillbillies will. He truly is the better chainsaw in this game. The Cannibal truly does dominate no matter where he is on any map. Even the ones that are super indoors have a lot of little tight spaces. He still is able to ultra and maneuver that chainsaw freely to avoid being smacked into them. And sometimes it's actually a benefit because if you hit something and the survivor thinks he's gonna be cool and slick, your character goes into a tantrum. So you start swinging it even more crazier and all over the place in that same position, making it even harder for a survivor to escape, especially if you have them backed up in a corner. Like, trying to escape you at that point will be honestly a death wish. It'll be virtually impossible. Truly, the Cannibal is one of the best kills in this game, with map pressure, just all around his speed. He truly is one of the most devious too. With that being said, folks, the Cannibal is in tier A. Remember, folks, last year he was a B killer. This year he improved to tier A. I forgot to mention that. But anyway, the Cannibal, tier A, everybody. Next up in tier A, it's going to be none other than the Nightmare, aka Freddy Krueger. And Krueger last year was actually in tier A. This year, he's back here again. Now, his power is called the Dream Demon. And with this power, he is actually able to have 2 abilities, technically, and I'll explain it in a little bit, because his first ability is called the Dream Snare, which basically it's a pool of blood that slows down survivors whenever they act on it and they scream. It's supposed to be like a quick nightmare flash, which is great, especially when they're looping, because when you have puddles that slow them down, you'll be able to come out and try to, if you're mind gaming them, just slash them. He has an insane range for having such a short weapon with just claws. I'm telling you, it's insane. It also is kind of funny because every time you hit somebody, it looks like you're mollywopping them. So it's kind of fun to see them absolutely get mopped up by a hand claw thing. It's pretty cool, to be honest. Either way, the Dream Snare I feel is one of his more effective out of the 2, because the next one, in order to use it, you have to have an add-on that allows you to change from Dream Snares to Dream Pallets. At that point, the reason why you have to have an add-on is because you're also manipulating the map, which actually is pretty cool when you really think about it, because he's in the Nightmare and you're manipulating their Nightmare, like just in the movies that he did. I'm probably the only one who cares? You guys don't get it. You guys probably will get it. You might not. I don't know. Anyway, moving forward. With the dream pallets, once you break a pallet, it'll still stay there. So survivors will think that it hit the other survivor who haven't used it will think that, they can use it. So when they throw it down, it bursts into a pool of blood. With the blood, it actually just splatters all over the place, and then at that point, now they thought that their only hope was gone, and then you get the down, or you at least get to injure them. It's a very effective thing. Of course, with this, it's just an add-on that allows you to use his secondary power, which also can be detrimental because, again, I don't like to talk about add-ons, but I had to here because it's in his power. Also, last but not least, he can teleport from generator to generator, because technically, when you think about it, you're in the dream world, so he can manipulate that to then also use it and clone himself coming out of the generator will spew blood. You'll see a thing of him trying to climb out. Now, a lot of Freddy Kruegers like myself do the thing to where you have you put the pool of blood. We'll try to like trick you in that we're coming, and then once you get off the gen, we'll actually be right behind you because it was deployed just to get you off the gen to hit you, which works marvelously because survivors still haven't realized that for some reason, and it works tremendously well and effective. And I've gotten a lot of downs and injured hits from it because they don't see it coming. Ultimately, Freddy Krueger is one of the most fun killers to play. He was the first killer I ever got to level 50. That shows you how awesome it is. That was before his buffed rework, like when you had still to transport people into the dream state, and it was terrible when he first came out. Yeah, ultimately, folks, the nightmare is in tier A. So next up in tier A is going to be the clown. The clown, actually, his power is called the Afterpiece Tonic, and last year he was a B killer. He was the runner-up for the B+. He was in second place. This year he was actually the runner-up for the A+ again. So poor clown, man. He's always like the best second man. He is like the Robin to a Batman, the clown. Unfortunately, and I hate to say that. Like, I'm sorry, clown mains, but let's be real now. Your killer's not the best. Here's the thing I actually love about the clown. He has, in my opinion, the second best map presence, I think, out of any killer in this game. And the reason why I say it is because of that Afterpiece Tonic, man. It is so lethal. Clown turns any survivor at any level except from 1 through 4 a complete potato. Survivors just don't know how to react to getting hit with the Afterpiece Tonic, and it's a lot easier out of every single person who has a free throw or free aim. Cough, Huntress, cough, Deathslinger. Man, I have had some phenomenal hits to where I've thrown the bottom, I've hit people upside the head, on the shin, on the thigh, on the back, on the face, on the abdominal, the rib cage, you name it, man. I am lights out with that freaking tonic, man. I love using it, and it's super cool because it slows down survivors into like warp speed of being in slow motion. So it's like warrior. You get what I'm trying to say. Overall, the clown, best map presence, just best true power. I wish his weapon was a little bit longer. It's a really weird blade. That may be like my only little thing for him, but overall, the clown man definitely is an A killer and definitely earns that respect just because of how well-rounded he is as a killer. Truly can turn the game around just as soon as he starts. And with that being said, everybody, the clown is in tier A. So next up is going to be the doctor. Last year he was the best killer in the game at an A+. This year he's the runner-up. He actually got dethroned. Well, I can't even believe it myself. The doctor was the first killer I actually ever used in this game, and still is one of my favorites to this day, especially since the buff. The doctor's power is called Carter's Spark. Basically what it is shock therapy and static blast. Let's talk about shock therapy first. Shock therapy is one of his cooler of the two because it allows you to keep shocking people. After about 5 or 6 shocks, they go into madness. There's madness 1, madness 2, madness 3. When you first shock them, that's madness 1. 2 or 3 shocks, madness 2. 1 or 2 after that, madness 3. Then they start screaming, revealing their location, and for some reason people have a hard time hitting the skill checks. I don't know why. Plus, as long as they keep their madness from at least 1 to 2, their skill checks will constantly move left and right, so making it harder for them to complete great skill checks, making it harder for them to do gens because they're constantly trying to look at the screen and figure out where the hell the skill check is going to come from, which ultimately makes it even more just difficult for survivors to do anything without once that madness begins. And a great way to do this is following up with his second ability. That second ability being the static blast. Now the static blast, it covers a pretty big, I think it's like 20 meters, 26 meters, it's something like that, and it covers a massive field, which you can shock up to 4 people with it and literally just hear a whole bunch of people screaming, and that's how you initiate the process of madness, because it's a little bit more powerful than the shock treatment. Shock treatment, shock therapy, whatever it's called. It then really turns this game to your favor because now you have map pressure without even really doing much, and it causes the whole game to be run by you. You now control the game. The survivors have no real will, such trying to just like escape the hell that they're in. And I know what that means. Well, that's the point of the game. No. The doctor, once you imply that madness, they're stuck with it. They're stuck at madness one, even if they try to bring it down. So for the rest of the game, they have the madness implemented in them, and you can just torment them throughout the game. And it is a great farming blood point killer. Even if you don't even kill anybody, I use him just for gens and just to torment people, and I at least get 27,000 blood points per game. He truly is one of the most lethal killers in the game, but the reason why he is not, well, I'm about to show you that killer in just a second. So anyway, the Doctor in Tier A. So to end this episode, getting the A+ in Tier A, it is going to be none other than the Executioner. He gets the A+ as the best killer in this game. His power is called the Rights of Judgment. Basically, one of his abilities is called Punishment of the Damned, which is basically leaving trench on the floor, which is barbed wire and a whole bunch of red stuff. And when survivors fall, they have now have the torment on them, or I think it's called atonement. I'm not really sure how they classify it. But then they have this barbed wire circular thing on their logo. The barbed wire will be on their screen. It's a pretty cool actually effect too. Punishment of the Damned sets up for one of the worst things a survivor could be in, especially if the killer doesn't decide to give them mercy. He can literally keep them in the whole barbed wire thing for the whole game until they hit that second hook phase, so then he has his own personal Mori called the Final Judgment, where he takes the blade, whacks it over up from the top of your skull, and drags it all the way down to the spinal core of your body. It's pretty intense, to be honest. That's one way you can use the Punishment of the Damned. The next way is, once they get to the Punishment of the Damned, you can put them in the Cage of Atonement, which, by the way, if it's their first hook, nothing happens. They stay in there until they hit to what they would have hit was the second hook phase. Once they hit that second hook phase, then they have to hit repeated skill checks. If they don't, the blades or the daggers inside of the Cage of Atonement will then crush the person, having more blood drip out from them. If they keep messing up skill checks, eventually after 2 or 3 times, it will actually kill them, and they will die in the Cage of Atonement. Overall, the Executioner brings an impressively disturbing map presence. And I also, side note, the game you're watching was against red rank survivors that were a group, and it was absolutely the worst game I think I've ever played in my entire life. Anyway, continuing. But yeah, like I was saying, the Executioner has great map presence. He can dominate a game. The fact he can use the Judgment to also do a long range attack to prevent looping is insane to me, about how far that reach is when he takes it up from the ground and tries to use the Punishment of the Damned to actually spike you from the ground. It's insane. Truly, whenever you're going against Pyramid Head, it is one of the most unlucky times as a survivor. As for us killers, it is the most fun time because we literally control the entire map with our trench, with us being as cruel and evil as we are. It is truly one of the best killers in the game, and that is why the Executioner, who has an overall dominating presence in Deathslinger, gets the A+ of this year. And don't get very focused, we have the recap of Tier A. So for the recap of Tier A, it is the Cannibal, Freddy Krueger, which is the Nightmare, the Clown, the Doctor, and of course the A+, the best killer in the game, the Executioner. So with that being said, everybody, hopefully you guys really did enjoy this video. I had fun. Let me know your thoughts and your comments on what your own personal killers would be in the comment section below. Make sure to chainsaw that like button and slash that sub button to BVTV for always the more off-the-hook action. With that being said, everybody, Happy New Year's, happy 2021. It will be a better year for us than 2020 now behind us. And with that being said, stay off the hook.